A strong opening doesn't need to be in-your-face flashy, but it does have to keep readers turning the page. In this video, I'm revealing the number one thing missing from my clients' first chapters as a developmental editor and how to fix it. It's a mistake that can make a promising story feel flat before it even gets going. The mistake is the protagonist isn't taking meaningful action. So often, I see first chapters full of cool world building or detailed backstory or things happening to the main character, but the character themselves, they're just kind of there, observing, reacting, or waiting. And the problem is if your main character isn't doing anything, if they're not pursuing something, your reader doesn't know why they should care. So let's fix that. Let's talk about what meaningful action really looks like and how to make sure your protagonist is compelling from page one. So let's define the problem. Here's what I see all the time when I'm editing a first chapter. The writing might be clean, the world might be vivid, and there might even be something dramatic happening in the scene. But the protagonists, they're not actually doing anything. They're standing there while the world moves around them. They're reacting or observing or receiving information, sometimes for pages. And that creates a problem because readers connect with agency. We're drawn to characters who want something, who choose, who move the story forward, even in small ways. When your protagonist is passive in the opening chapter, it makes them harder to care about. And it makes it harder for readers to feel like this is someone that they want to follow for an entire book. That doesn't mean your main character has to be loud or bold or likable in some generic way, but they do need to matter to the story, and they need to be doing something that shows us who they are. Even if the scene looks good on the surface, it's missing the narrative heartbeat that pulls readers in. So how do we actually fix that? Let's start by rethinking what we mean when we say a story needs to start with action. What actually counts as action? Okay, so when I say start with action, I don't necessarily mean like a car chase or sword fight, though those things can be the type of action I'm talking about if it's your character intentionally making a choice. But that's not what I mean here necessarily. Action doesn't have to be loud or dangerous, it just has to be intentional. Your protagonist needs to be doing something on purpose, like pursuing a goal, making a choice, reacting with agency. Let's say your story starts out with a teenager sneaking into a library after hours to find a missing book. That's action. Not because it's flashy, but because the character is actively trying to accomplish something. Now, something that is not the right type of action is your character standing, watching out of a building window, watching something dramatic happen in the street, but not taking part in it and just observing. So even though there is action out on the street, it's not meaningful character action. They're just observing with no decision making or goal driving them. Readers won't really have a reason to care what happens next within the context of your character. Another example of action is your character applying for a job they're clearly not qualified for, but they need it badly and they're determined to convince the manager. That's action too. They're not just existing in the scene, they're taking initiative, making choices, and revealing something about their values or desires. The key is it's not random and it's not just stuff happening to them while they stand by. It's something your character is doing that reveals who they are and what matters to them. So don't worry about explosions, worry about intention. So let's talk deeper into character agency, because it's one of the most important qualities your protagonist needs, especially in chapter 1. Here's a definition that I really love. Agency is an individual's capacity to determine and make meaning from their environment through purposive consciousness and reflective and creative action. It means your character doesn't just react, they engage. Let's break that down a little bit further. So purposive consciousness means the capacity of living beings to act with intention to direct their action towards specific goals. So we have a character engaging with the scene and with the purpose of it working toward a goal. They're aware, they're choosing, they're doing something because it matters to them, even if they're still figuring it out. That's what agency looks like in fiction. Characters who are actively trying to shape their circumstances, not just survive them. And this is crucial because readers connect to characters who have purpose. Even if their goal is small or deeply personal, that sense of inner drive is what makes us care as readers. So no matter how quiet or chaotic your opening scene is, give your protagonist some agency. Let them want something and let them try. That's how you build interest, and that's what makes a reader want to follow your character through the rest of the book. Now let's talk about connecting action to a goal. Now that we've talked about meaningful action and agency, let's tie it to something even more specific. Your protagonist's goal. In those opening pages, your main character should be actively pursuing something, even if it's small and even if it's temporary. This is often called the initial story goal. It's not the big save the world mission yet, and it doesn't have to carry through the entire plot. But it does give your character a reason to act right now. Think of it like this. What does your protagonist want to accomplish in the first scene or chapter? What are they trying to get, avoid, fix, or protect? When we see a character with a clear short-term goal, we instantly get pulled in. We wonder, will they succeed? What's standing in their way? What does this goal reveal about who they are? So for example, that teenager that was sneaking into the library, their goal might be to find a specific book before someone else does. That job applicant, their goal is to land the interview, even if it means stretching the truth. These goals don't have to be huge, they just need to matter to the character and drive them to act. The connection to their goals is what makes the action meaningful and not just action for action's sake. And here's the bonus. When your protagonist is pursuing a goal, it's easy to weave in world building, conflict, and character backstory through the action instead of pausing the story to just explain it all. So when editing your draft, ask yourself the question, is your protagonist making an active choice in your opening scene? Or are they just reacting to things around them? If it's the latter, don't panic. Here's your action steps. Go back to your first chapter and highlight what your character is trying to do. If you can't find a clear goal, consider what small but meaningful action could reveal who they are right from page 1. Even adding one intentional choice or a small short-term goal can completely shift the energy of your scene. To quickly recap, we talked about why your protagonist needs meaningful action in chapter 1, what action really means, and it's not just car chases, why agency and intention matter, how to connect early action to a story goal, which makes the action meaningful. And the result is a first chapter that makes your reader say, I want to know what this character does next. If this gave you a fresh perspective on how to strengthen your first chapter, I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe, as it's a huge help for my channel and you'll get more craft focused videos just like this. Happy writing!